the two clips I wanted to show you guys because, Shakur Stevenson got booed by the whole of the T-Mobile Arena. There wasn't a lot of people at the T-Mobile Arena, and all these clips on Twitter started resurfacing of Gervonta Davis because Gervonta Davis was getting booed when he fought Gamboa, and people were playing like this clip from one of his vlogs, and then they were playing what Shakur Stevenson said in response to fans, booing him. So I wanted to play that for you guys and kind of go from there and dissect. So here's what Shakur Stevenson said in response to fans booing him in the T-Mobile Arena against the Los Santos.
When I hear going, I don't care. I seen the greats get booed. I seen Andre Ward get booed. I seen Floyd get booed. I seen Terrence Crawford. Go watch his early fights in his career when he was outboxing people and they wanted him to stand there and trade. I seen him get booed. So I don't care. I mean, and then they some nights you're gonna have these nights, and then some nights they gonna love you. So the nights that they love me, I can't wait for them.
So yeah, he said the nights that they love me, I can't wait for them, right? But I guess it's not a bad response, but it's not as good of a response as what Gervonta Davis said when he was getting booed by Gamboa. This is what you want to hear a fighter say when he's getting booed if you're a boxing fan.
Man, you got a topic to do. You guys are easy to work with. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm like, what?
Nah.
They don't boo me. I'm like, they was like, boo. I'm like, what? I ain't say that. I don't get booed. I don't get booed.
Yeah, I see you. I'm like, oh.
So there you have it. Tank wasn't having it. Tank's like, look, I'm not getting booed. If it comes down to it and people are here to watch me fight, I don't want them to be, not satisfied. And I feel like Tank, he's a fighter that he sees himself as almost too good to get booed. And he fought accordingly, and he wound up eventually stopping Gamboa. It took him a long time because Gamboa had one leg, and that was the fight where he hurt his leg in the early part of the fight. But he got the stoppage and gave people a good night of boxing. So that's what it is. And my thing is this, that's, I know for Shakur, is like the biggest fight in boxing for him is Gervonta Davis. And he's going to have to find that middle ground of being that defensively sound fighter and being a guy that isn't afraid to bite down on his gumshoe when need be. Because, again, that overly cautious style that he has, it's only going to get him but so far. Even look, I was just talking about this today. Shout out to my main man, Eric Lanzis Jr., a local fighter here in South Florida. I go running with him every Sunday. And I went running with him and another fighter named Luis Hernandez and another fighter named Sense Boy from Nigeria. We went down to South Beach today, and I ran like 9 miles. And on my way to running the 9 miles, we were talking about boxing, and his dad, shout out to Eric Lanzis Sr., he was telling me about a fight that he thinks is going to be a very tough fight for Shakur, and it's a fight that might happen next or very soon, with Top Rank, and that's him potentially fighting Emanuel Navarrete. Now, I know Navarrete went life and death with Robertson Constanzao, who Shakur beat pretty easily. But styles make fights. And one thing we know about Emanuel Navarrete is that you better be conditioned for 12 rounds. And you're not going to go the whole fight without having to sit there and fight him because he's so awkward and the gas tank is so elite and he has that real subtle body punching ability. I really do think that's a fight like that, Tank, them kind of fights are the kind of fights where I think Shakur is going to have to bite down on that gumshoe at some point, and he's going to have to fight. And that's what we want to see from him. So, yeah, that's what it is there. As far as Edwin De Los Santos, because I know people were talking about De Los Santos having success with Shakur Stevenson, and let's talk about that. So shout out to my main man on Twitter, Action Jackson. He had a interesting take here on the fight, and here's what he said. He said, I watched Stevenson versus De Los Santos with no volume, and defense to offense can definitely win you the fight, but just creating distance can't win the fight. Shakur's jabs were out of range and got countered a lot. Edwin won almost every exchange, and he was the ring general. The rematch is needed. Now, I'm very sure that Top Rank and the powers that be are not eager to put on a rematch. But I haven't had a chance to rewatch the fight yet. I'm going to rewatch the fight at some point this week and do a video about it. But Yeah, I do agree with some of his assessment. I do think like there were a lot of moments in the fight where when Shakur would jab, he wasn't able to really cover that real estate and close the gap like we're accustomed to seeing. And that's why I feel like maybe he might have been more overcautious, because one thing about Shakur Stevenson is he's very economical, meaning that when he does commit to his offense and he does punch, more oftentimes than not, he's able to score, especially with that lead southpaw jab. And when he wasn't scoring with the lead southpaw jab, that put him into an even more cautious, more overly defensive mode. So I'm not sure if because I know a lot of people have been saying Edwin won the fight. I'm not sure if Edwin actually went ahead and won the fight, but he definitely won some rounds, and he was winning rounds, in a kind of fight that you would have thought going in would have favored Shakur. You would have never thought in your wildest dreams Edwin de Los Santos would win, 3 rounds or more against Shakur Stevenson, boxing from the mid-range to outside. But nonetheless, that's what happened. So we'll see. We'll see with that. And, there's been a lot of fan backlash. There's been a lot of fan outrage with this fight and whatnot. And everyone has their 2 cents about, the aftermath of the fight. And, shout out to Looney Tune Boxing. He does those boxing cartoons. I interviewed him back in 2019 when he was first coming up in social media and whatnot. But he said, look, and I feel like this would probably reflect the attitude of a lot of casual boxing fans. If this is the future pound for pound king, then I don't want to watch boxing anymore. And that's just what it is. A lot of people feel this way. A lot of people weren't satisfied with the Shakur Stevenson performance. And I think, look, I think the thing that's going to tell us the most about Shakur Stevenson in the near future is when his contract is up and will Top Rank actually resign Shakur Stevenson? Because if Top Rank decides, hey, this guy is not worth resigning, this guy is not worth even putting back on network on ESPN, then it will let you know about the current state of his market value. Because this is a kid that he had everybody at the fight for him. I mean, Michael B. Jordan came out, Floyd Mayweather came out. Nas came out, Rakim came out, Terrence Crawford was there. Who else? There's a lot of people were there to see him fight, and he let a lot of people down. So look, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean that Shakur can't redeem himself, but again, he couldn't have picked a worse time to, I feel at least, have this kind of performance. And then I'll go to this tweet, and then we'll get to the comments here in a second. But my man on Twitter, Real Fight Enthusiast, says that performance made him a villain, and more people will want to tune him in. And he'll get the big fights. That's got to be one of the most brain dead takes I've seen in a week. So there you have it. Yeah, a lot of people have been. I've been seeing the Shakur fanboys that swear by him unapologetically. They've been spewing that, like, oh, well, now that people are mad that Shakur is boring, it's gonna make him a villain, and he's just gonna sell all these tickets. And that's not how it works. Because if that was the case, because he's not a villain. I don't think he's a villain. He's not Floyd. He's not even like a Tank. He's not that kind of fighter. Even if he tries to be a villain, I mean, look, I'll actually play a clip for you guys because I actually had the clip in here too, right? If he tries to play a villain, if he tries to be the overly tough villain guy, it's not going to go off well. I think Calvin Ford said it best. I was interviewing Calvin Ford last December, and he had a lot to say about sometimes this front that he feels Shakur Stevenson puts on. He's not capable of putting that front on and being the bad guy. So it's not going to work for him like that. But here's what Calvin Ford said about that last year.
The only person I can really give salute to is Shakur, because he grew up with us. That's why I get on Shakur. Sometimes he changes his media, try to be that tough guy. Big dad. Let's keep it real. We grew up together. Me and your grandfather were cool. You know what I'm saying? But pure boxing. You know what I'm saying? They know Tank is different. You notice they don't say nothing like, you know what I'm saying? If you that dude, you're going to go, you know what I'm saying? They don't do that with Tank. They know Tank don't play like that. My mom, so if it's beef, when it's beef with us. You know what I'm saying? Because we carry it like that. But we try to stay humble. This is a sport. But guys start to run their mouth and forget who they talking to.
So there you have it. So yeah, like you heard what he said. I don't gotta repeat it for you guys. Calvin Ford or Shakur Stevenson is not going to be a villain, because if being quote unquote boring like that would turn you into a villain, then when people were calling Demetrius Andrade boring, because there were some fights in his career where people said he was boring, he didn't turn into a villain. He gets turned into a guy that a lot of people didn't want to see fight. They didn't want to see him, even though I like Andrade and I think he's good, and I don't think he was ever as boring as Shakur Stevenson was against Los Santos. Him having subpar performances or performances where he didn't get knockouts against guys he should have stopped, that didn't turn him into a villain. It just turned him into a guy that was looked at as an afterthought, as a guy that his market value wasn't high enough to command those big fights with Canelo Alvarez, like the ones I clamored for many years. So that's just what it is. So yeah.